Welcome to the Boho's four-corner apron, part of the Summer Class Pass series of classes. This Boho four-corner apron is a new take on one of our old-time favorites, which was called the Four Corners apron. There was also a kids version of the Four Corners, and it has once again been one of our all-time favorite quick and easy apron patterns. The big addition to this pattern is going to be the curved yoke around the neck and then the addition of pockets. Other than that, this apron is extremely simple to construct, and we're going to go through all of the basic steps with you. Let's take a look here at our sample. And so this pattern has two pockets on there. I'm going to show you guys how to make a pocket and then also how to line it up and top stitch those on. We have the addition of the yoke around the neck, and then we have a strap. We'll be putting our two straps in. Couple of little changes to the pattern for how the straps are inserted, and we're going to get going on this. Okay, so I grab your pattern, and then in your pattern you're going to see the neckline yoke, and that's important to make sure you get that cut out, and then also the four-corner apron pockets. So let's talk about the pockets here really quick. You're going to make two of them. You're going to take those, pressure fabric on the fold, and then cut out your shape. What we'll do is we are going to sew 1/4 inch all the way around the pocket, making sure that we leave an opening for turning. I'm going to show you my trick for making sure that we get a nice smooth opening with real ease. You're also going to take and cut out your yoke. All right, so once you cut this yoke from your fabric, once again, I'm making my fabric, my straps, my pockets all out of this really cute red plaid. Then we're using the gingerbread house fabric for the rest of the apron. You'll actually use this curve here as a guide to turn under this yoke. So we're gonna go ahead and set that to the side, and we're going to come back and I'll show you how to do that. You're also going to be cutting out your neck strap, and you're going to be cutting out your side straps. So I cut the side straps as shown in the pattern, right sides together, sewed 3 sides, we turned those, and then we top stitch them. So these are already done, and I'm going to set these to the side. But I am going to review top stitching with you on our neck strap. The one thing I noticed about this particular project is that this neck strap seemed a little bit tight. So it asks for 16 inches. We increased it to 20 inches. So that might be a change that you want to take into consideration for this project. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the machine, and then we are going to make a pocket really quickly. I'm going to show you a couple of techniques. Then we're going to come back and we're going to top stitch the pocket. We're going to top stitch the neck strap, and then we're going to go into the construction of this, and I'll talk about that. So we'll do all that at one time. Then we're actually going to go into the final assembly. You'll cut your main fabric and your lining fabric as stated in the pattern. If using a directional fabric, just make sure that you turn your direction the correct way for both pieces. So let's head over to the sewing machine and start our assembly. All right, so here at the machine, we're going to go ahead and sew 1/4 inch seam, and you got to remember we're going to leave a spot open to turn it. But we'll do that at the end. So what we're going to do is go ahead and we're going to start our 1/4 inch seam. I am going to back stitch even though it's at the fold. We're just going to very gently just turn that 1/4 inch in, and we're going to sew the pocket. Okay, so here is something I've shown in this class pass, I've shown in other classes, and last year's class pass. I need to leave myself a small opening to turn this pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and back stitch. I'm going to stop. I'm going to increase my stitch length to around a 4, 4.5, even a 5 to do a quick basting stitch. So I'm going to baste it for the majority of where the opening is going to be. I'm going to reset my machine to the standard stitch length. I'm going to back stitch, and then I'm going to finish that off, and then once again it's at the fold, so I'm going to back stitch. So I'm going to show you here in this camera what we did. So this is a basting line right here. So it is, and I did mine at a 5.0. So if you go ahead and what I always do first is I go ahead and finger press that spot, and then I will finger press the opposite side right up to that stitch, right up to that seam line. Okay, that's my basting stitch. So I'll go ahead and do that on both sides. What that has given us is that has allowed us to pre-press our seam allowance that will be on the inside. That way they're nice and smooth. We're not trying to get that 1/4 inch under. We're just doing it right at the same time. So I finger press that, and since I'm here at this camera angle, then what I do is I just come right in and I take my seam ripper, and it will just, that basting stitch will just pull right apart. All right, so a couple times, you might have to take out just a couple stitches, and it'll open all the way back to where your back stitch is. And so that's going to give us that nice smooth seam without us trying to do it all the way around. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and turn this pocket and then press it, and then we're going to head back over and go on to the next step. Okay, so we're back here, and I have turned my pocket, and you're going to see we have a nice smooth edge from turning it. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going ahead and getting this placed on to our apron. So let's talk about multiple things while we're here. So first of all, we are going to put the yoke on. And what you're going to do is you'll follow the measurement in the pattern, and that's going to tell you where this yoke needs to go. So it'll give you the points. So I've actually pinned this into place. We're going to go to the machine, and we're going to top stitch it into place. And then we're going to top stitch, but really just a basting top stitch on the inside piece here just to hold it. This is actually going to get handled when we do our assembly, our final assembly. But we're going to top stitch this. That way we can cut this section out. So we'll do that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and top stitch our neck strap. So I will show you guys that also. I've already, once again, I did right sides together, sewed it, I turned it, and then pressed it flat. So we're going to go ahead and top stitch both sides. The other thing that we're going to do while we're over at the machine is we're going to go ahead and top stitch our pockets in place. Now I've already top stitched the first pocket in place. So you'll find your measurements, but basically you're going to divide this in half, and you can just finger press that in. And then the measurements are in the pattern, but we're going 3 inches over, and then we're going 1.5 inches up. Okay, so we're going to go 1.5 inches up, and we're going to go 3 inches over, and that is where this pocket is going to go. Then this is going to go, the angle is actually the creased line, which is the center going around this horizontally. So what we'll do at that point is we'll go ahead, so this is where this needs to go. You'll see our angles are going to be the same, and that is going to be our pocket placement. I'm actually going to make myself a little mark here because I'm going to do this over at the machine. One thing that you will need to do if you look at this pocket is we're going to go ahead and top stitch this first. So I'm going to show you the top stitching on that. Then it's going to get marked in place. So I just took my friction pin so that I could very easily, while we're over at the machine, I can just put this pocket right in place. We're going to pin it. Then we're going to top stitch it into place, leaving the pocket open. So let's head to the machine and get all of this top stitching complete. Okay, you guys know I like to use my overcasting foot. So on a Baby Lock and Brother, it's R. Any other brand machine, just look in your book of what the top stitch, what your overcasting foot is. So what this does is it has a guide right there in the middle. So I can very easily move my needle to the left position and get a perfect top stitch by following that guide. So I'm going to come over here. I've put that needle in position, and we're going to go ahead and top stitch the neck strap on both sides. All right, so here is that pocket that we turned, and we're going to go ahead and top stitch right across the top. So on this one, I'll actually take a couple of steps, back stitch it, and then we'll go ahead and finish the top stitching. And then that pocket will be ready to put into place. What we're going to do then is we're going to go ahead and top stitch this yoke. And so this is what we're going to do. We're going to come over here, and we're just going to slowly just top stitch this yoke right into place. All right, so once you've top stitched this in place all the way around, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to come in and baste stitch the rest of it in. So I'm going to go back to my regular sewing foot here. So let me put on that regular sewing foot. And then I'm going to go ahead and baste this one in place. Okay, so we're just going to come in here, and I just want to stay within the 1/8 inch there, and all I'm trying to do here is just baste that in. Because we're actually going to get a 1/4 of an inch seam on here. This is just to hold it in while we do all of the assembly. And remember, we're going to be cutting this out. All right, and this one is in place. So that yolk is all nice and basted in. Now, if you remember, the last thing that we need to do is we need to go ahead and put this pocket in. All right? Now, I have left myself a couple of marks. So I left myself a mark right here, and then it's going to come right over here, which is on. So that is going to be an identical to my pocket that's on the side. Once again, I'm going to throw my overcasting foot back on because it's got that nice guide that's going to allow me to get that pocket on easily. All right, so here we go. So I'm going to take a stitch or two, I'll back stitch, and then I'm going to go ahead and top stitch this. All the way around. And now I have both my pockets in. So let's head back over to the cutting table and get everything ready for some final assembly. Okay, so here we are. We top stitched this into place. We've done our pockets into place. All of our straps are made and top stitched. So what we're gonna do, oh, and we basted this in, and then we trimmed away that excess fabric. So you see how easy it is to make that yoke. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna be adding our backing. And what I want you to do is you're going to take this and you're gonna line up your edges. You're gonna put in some pins and you'll line up your edges on the right and the left side. Don't worry about the bottom. They're going to line up automatically if you line up your two sides. So what we're going to do is we're going to get, I'm getting my corners lined up. And then what we're going to do, smooth this out. We're going to make one more stitch before we assemble. Now, I have made a couple changes to the way we're going to assemble. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to flip this over and show you. So I'm going to go back to the machine and I am going to go ahead and sew this in. So I'm going to sew this yoke in at 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then we're going to come back and talk about adding all of the strips and getting the, the straps and getting the rest of the assembly done. Once again, there's a couple things that I do a little bit different, so I will go through all of those steps with you. All right, so we're back at the pressing table, and as you can see, I've sewn the inside 1/4 inch seam and I trimmed everything out. So you want to lay your strap here. All right, and then you're going to lay it on the other side, making sure that it's not twisted. And then you're going to go ahead and pin that in place on the inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this one here. So as you guys can see, that's where it's going to go. Going to bring this out. I'm going to let it stick out about 1/4 inch. Going to give me that 1/4 inch over there. Then I'm just going to make sure that this is not going to twist on me, and then I will put it in on the other side. So let me just put in pin here just to hold it while I flip my apron back. I'm going to open it up here. I don't have it twisted. We are going to do the same side. And that is in place. So now I will flip this back into place. And you guys, I will reline up over here my apron pieces. So I'll put in a couple of pins, and I'm just going to trim that off when I get my seam sewn. All right. Now, in this pattern, what they actually have you do is they have you leave openings, and they want you to go insert your straps later, which I just think is pointless. So you're going to measure down from your point up here. You're going to measure down, we're going to open this up, 11 inches. And you'll find that in your pattern instructions. So you're going to measure down 11 inches. And you're going to put a strap. Make sure that your strap that is going to go out is going to be the raw edge sticking out. And I'm going to go ahead and pin this in place. Yep, I had it right. Just had to double check my pattern here, because you are going to put these so that they're going parallel here. So, and you want to make sure that this is sticking out. I'm going to pin that in place. And I'm going to pin this in place. Then what I like to do is just take, and I'm going to just kind of pin this up here, just out of my way on the inside, so that it's not dangling around when I try to pin the rest of my project. So I'll flip this back into place, and then you guys will notice that everything's going to line up, and you're going to pin it. You're going to repeat this process on the other side, and then you're going to head over and you'll sew it. When you get over to the machine, this is the top strap part. You're going to sew on one side, and you're going to go ahead and sew your 1/4 of an inch seam. I'm going to go right off, and then I'm going to turn, and I'm going to go down this angle. I'm going to do the first angle, then I'm going to repeat what I just did on the other side, and then I will sew my final 2 angles down. All right, so I got the I got this sewn across where the neck straps are, down both the right and left side. Then I just need to close the bottom 2 pieces. On one of those pieces, remember to leave yourself an opening for turning. If you want to do it the way I do it, make sure that you do a basting stitch over, do a basting stitch where you want to turn it to make you have an easier time and a smoother seam. All right, so this is where I'm going to leave my opening. So I am going to go ahead and back stitch. I'm going to increase my stitch length to a basting stitch, and I'm going to stitch. I'm going to return my machine to the normal stitch length. I'm going to sew a couple stitches, back stitch, and then I can go ahead and finish the rest of this seam off. All right, so after you have taken your apron and sewn it all the way around, you left yourself an opening. You will have your strap will be all ready to go. Make sure that you just press everything very well, pulp out all of your corners, press it well, top stitch it all the way around, including the inside yoke. So the entire square with that inside curve on the yoke of the neck, and you will have completed your Boho 4 corners apron. Have a good day, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow for another Summer Class Pass class.